As soon as I say the word Shakespeare, I see the fear in your eyes. I know the feeling, I've been there too. I know it can be scary as you feel you'll never understand what the hell any of the characters are saying. However, it's time to change how you think. Shakespeare said, all things be ready if our minds be so. But don't approach it with fear, as that would only restrict you. It's a challenge, but a challenge you can overcome. The best way to understand a text is to look at the context first. The exam requires you to explore the relationship between the play and the context in which it was written. This can cover a range of things. For example, when the text was written, where and when the text was set, genre, and the context within which the text is set. For example, location, social structures, cultural factors, and period of time. Therefore, when looking at Macbeth, it's best to revise these factors first. This will help you build your own interpretation of Shakespeare's work and why he chose to use particular characters, language, and other methods in his play. Think about TV today. Writers, producers, and directors have carefully thought about every last detail to make sure that you, their audience, are entertained. Shakespeare was doing exactly the same thing for his audience. I'm going to use a show like Empire as an example. Empire is a popular show because it caters to what many audiences today want: drama. The writer knew this, so he created a story that he knew would interest particular audiences. For example, younger audiences who enjoy urban music, interested in soap operas, and themes of power, themes of love, ideas of family, and drama upon drama. Guess what? The themes are the same in Macbeth. The only thing that is different is how Shakespeare presents his themes to his audience. So, ideas of the monarchy, betrayal, regicide, and religion. However, just like today, you need backing. Empire is aired on the Fox channel, so the Empire team needs to impress Fox before anything is aired. They need to make sure the themes, characters, and plot reflect what they want to see and make them money. Shakespeare had the same stresses, and during the reign of Elizabeth I, Shakespeare had no worries. She enjoyed his work and was his loyal patron, meaning she supported his work. This could have been through money, gifts, or lending her name to his cause by speaking highly of Shakespeare. This may also explain why Shakespeare included strong female characters within his play, such as the feisty, ruthless, and determined Lady Macbeth, to show the power and influence women can have, even though during the time they were seen as inferior. However, the easy road was about to end. Elizabeth died. The happy days of her era would be replaced by the reign of James I. Elizabeth had no children, nephews, or nieces. Her kingdom was then offered to James, a distant cousin of Elizabeth. James wasn't exactly popular. He annoyed the Catholics big time. They thought with his mother being a Catholic that he would support them. However, he did not. You should have heard of a man named Guy Fawkes. Well, did you know that it was him and his men who tried to blow up James I and his government in the Gunpowder Plot? See, it was all drama back then too. So, with the death of Elizabeth, Shakespeare no longer had his cheerleader by his side and had to write a play that would impress the new big dog, James I. Shakespeare had to impress James, same way Empire has to impress Fox. That would explain why Shakespeare made sure Macbeth, who committed regicide by killing King Duncan, had to die at the end of the play, to show the audience that trying to kill a king would only lead to a horrible death. He was also a massive believer in the supernatural and considered himself somewhat an expert. He even wrote a book on it. So how did Shakespeare use his love of James in his play? Well, he includes the three witches and even throws in some ghosts. The fact that Macbeth is influenced by the dark forces of the witches, by evil, leads to his downfall, reminding the audience that, like regicide, witchcraft is also a big no-no. So, to understand the text, it's important for you, as a reader, to come outside the text in order to inform your understanding of the meanings being conveyed. So coming outside the play, you can see just some of the influences and ideals that Shakespeare had to think about when writing this play. On the surface, we may just be thinking it's a story of a man who gets too carried away with his ambition pays the price. But underneath, try to understand the reasons why Shakespeare has made the choices he has. Think about what life was like at the time and how this affects his work. He began writing for an Elizabethan audience, so that may reflect his strong female characters, challenging the stereotypes of women being inferior and possessions of men. We very much see Lady Macbeth in control during the play, as she carefully uses language to persuade her husband to kill. Now that's some powers of persuasion. Then James I came into power, so Shakespeare had to write material that would get him on his good side. Those strong warnings against potential regicide attempts had to be made clear to the audience. Furthermore, he had to include the evil influence of witches and the supernatural because, well, James I was an expert, of course. So Shakespeare also made sure the witches spoke in a different rhythm to the other characters to really ensure they were portrayed differently to the more noble characters in the play. Then we've got religion. Religion was central to society. They believed in sin and paying for your sins, and we see this in the play through Macbeth's guilt for killing the king. Shakespeare chooses not to show the murder of King Duncan, but focuses on Macbeth to really show the audience the effects on his mental state. Macbeth is also unable to say amen because he's too ashamed of what he had done. Furthermore, Elizabethans believed that the king was the closest to God. This was known as the Great Chain of Being. This meant that God had created a social order for everybody, and only he chose where you belong. So if you were a king or queen, you had divine rights and were only answerable to God. Imagine if people still believed this way. I wonder where someone like Kanye West would think he would be in this order. So knowing about the Great Chain of Being, think about how Shakespeare explored this. Was Macbeth the rightful king? How did he ensure that true natural order would be restored and please James? So, with context in mind, try to build interpretation of the language, structure and the form. How does Shakespeare use this in his play to engage his audience? Now for revision. Remind yourself of the main themes in Macbeth and link them to the context, finding relevant quotes and making your own interpretations of why Shakespeare has chosen to explore this theme. Here are just some of the themes you could look at. So I'm going to use gender as an example. It's repeatedly used throughout the play. Lady Macbeth constantly emasculates her husband because she sees him as being weak for not killing the king. Now think about the period of time. How would an audience take this? How were men and women expected to behave back then? Do we still have these ideas today? Always be asking yourself a question. Once you revise these themes, why not try the following question? What are the social influences reflected in Shakespeare's play Macbeth? Third thing you should do is underline the key parts of the question to ensure you understand what they are asking you to do. Then spend a few minutes making a plan. This will make sure that you don't waffle. So make a plan by identifying your social influences, find key quotes, and unpick the quotes by exploding the quote. Make sure you make a clear point that actually answers the question. Then, embed relevant quotes into your sentence. Try to make them short and naturally flow into your sentence and not plonked in. Explain the quote. What are the social influences explored in the quote? Also, always make sure that you're actually answering the question. Then, it's the important bit, the analysis. When analysing structure or form, comment on the effects of these choices on the audience and give your own interpretations. You should all be familiar with word level, but sometimes we find it hard to get it right. Follow this 4-step process when analysing word or phrases. Identify the word class. Is it a noun, adjective, for example? Then the denotations of the word, what that word literally means. Then look at the connotations. What do you associate with that particular word or phrase? And then explore in detail the effect on the audience. Explore how the different audience would think or feel. So an audience back then and an audience today. And you as an audience member. And then make sure you give your interpretations throughout. Good luck.